A strange thing happened in this prison. One morning during roll call, a prisoner was nowhere to be found. The guards rushed to his cell, only to be stunned by what they saw. The prisoner had vanished without a trace. The furious warden threw a tantrum, smashing things around. By accident, he hit a spot on the wall where a small hole appeared. Prodding further, he uncovered a hidden tunnel. Alarmed, he ordered every guard to hunt for the escapee. But all they found were tattered prison clothes and a worn-down hammer. Considering Shawshank was said to be the most secure prison in the world, it should have taken 600 years to dig through it. This incident shocked the nation, but it all began on a night in 1947. Andy, a banker, discovered his wife with her fitness coach at home. Fueled by alcohol, he grabbed a gun, planning to confront them. But before he acted, his wife and her lover were shot dead by someone else. The scattered bullet casings and bottle fragments with Andy's fingerprints pointed him as the prime suspect. He couldn't prove his innocence and was sentenced to life at the infamous Shawshank prison. As Andy entered the prison, the seasoned inmates jeered, placing bets on which newcomer would break down first. Most bet on a heavyset man, but Red, another inmate, put 10 cigarettes on Andy, figuring he looked too delicate for prison life. But it wasn't Andy who broke down. It was the heavyset guy. The guards dragged the crying man away and beat him until he barely survived. Sadly, he didn't receive medical help in time and died. Andy, meanwhile, stayed silent, having already accepted his fate, costing Red 3 packs of cigarettes and sparking his curiosity about Andy. Andy mostly kept to himself, even eating alone. One day, he found a maggot in his food, which he promptly handed to an elderly inmate who fed it to a baby bird in his pocket. This gesture inspired Andy to seek a hobby to pass the time. He approached Red, who was known to be the prison's go-to guy, asking for a small rock hammer to carve things with. Red was hesitant at first, but seeing how small the hammer was, figured Andy couldn't use it to escape. At least not in less than 600 years. Not long after, Andy caught the attention of a gang known as the Sisters, who harassed him at every opportunity, often cornering him when nobody was around. Andy never gave in, enduring severe beatings for 2 years until a chance came. Thanks to Red's connections, he joined a group of inmates assigned to work outside. During this, Andy overheard Captain Hadley complaining about the inheritance tax eating into his recently inherited wealth. Seizing the opportunity, Andy offered a legal way to avoid the tax. In exchange, he asked for some beers for his work crew. Hadley agreed, and the men spent that evening enjoying cold beer on the roof, savoring a rare taste of freedom. Andy's bold move earned him respect. He later asked Red for a giant poster of a movie star, but while heading back to his cell, the Sisters cornered him again and beat him badly. One of the ringleaders was punished never to bother Andy again. Soon after, the warden, Norton, offered Andy a job as his financial advisor, needing someone discreet to help him launder his illegal earnings. Andy agreed, and his life in prison improved, gaining an office and a steady stream of guards seeking financial advice. One day, Brooks, the oldest inmate, held another prisoner at knife point, too terrified to face life outside after 50 years inside. Andy eventually talked him down, and Brooks was released, only to struggle with the outside world. Lost and alone, he left a final message before taking his life. Unable to adjust to a society that had moved on without him. Determined to improve prison life, Andy proposed expanding the library, but the warden refused. So Andy wrote weekly letters to the state for funding. After 6 years, he received a small sum and a box of old books, spurring him to write 2 letters per week. While sorting through the books, he found a record, and, with the guards away, played it over the prison loudspeaker. The music captivated every inmate, a rare moment of hope. But Andy was punished with 2 weeks in solitary confinement. Over time, his letters paid off, securing a $500 annual grant, turning Shawshank's library into the best of any prison. Inmates now had books, newspapers, music, and could even earn a high school diploma. For the warden, Andy laundered money through stocks and insurance, depositing the funds into an account he'd created under a fake identity named Randall. In 1965, a young thief, Tommy, joined the prison and shared a story about another inmate in a different prison who had committed a crime Andy was accused of. Andy, realizing his innocence could be proven, pleaded with the warden for a retrial, promising to keep quiet about the warden's dealings. But the warden dismissed him, even killing Tommy to make it look like an escape attempt, a warning to Andy to stay silent. Feeling defeated, Andy confided in Red, telling him if he ever got out to look for something he'd hidden under a tree in a nearby town. That night, Andy walked back to his cell with a strange look, as if saying goodbye. No one noticed he was wearing different shoes. The next morning, Andy was gone. Furious, the warden stormed his cell, throwing things around until he knocked down Andy's poster, revealing a tunnel Andy had spent 19 years digging with the rock hammer. Andy had used nightly hours to dig behind the poster, hiding stones in his pockets and scattering them in the yard each day. He swapped the warden's account books, smuggled them into the tunnel, and during a storm, broke into the sewer line, crawling through 500 yards of waste to freedom. The next morning, Randall withdrew all the warden's hidden funds from the bank and sent evidence of his crimes to the media. Shawshank's corruption scandal dominated headlines, and as police arrived to arrest him, the warden took his own life. Years later, Red was granted parole. Struggling to adjust, he almost gave up, but remembered Andy's instructions. He found a box with money and a letter urging him to come to Mexico, reminding him that hope was worth holding on to. Following Andy's trail, Red reached a seaside town, reuniting with his friends to share in the freedom they both fought so hard to earn.